Yo, what's up, everyone? Maybe my shit is working now. Can you hear me, Aaron?
I can
All
hear you.
right. Okay. Yeah. I've been having like there's so many technological problems the last couple days. I had like my internet connection being down one day, and then our power was out for like a good period of time. Yesterday, I had a hard drive die, but then like I didn't want the hard drive to die. Like I needed stuff that was on the hard drive, and like
Right.
the hard drive started working again. So like when I woke up this morning, the hard drive was just magically working again. And
hmm
so I like it's definitely on its last legs. It's not showing up right now. That inclined me to go and check. On this restart, it's not showing up, so I gotta get the stuff off of there that I actually care about that's on there, probably because it's gonna die any moment. But
Uh-huh.
yeah.
You have
So
any?
I
You
was
don't have any
kind
of
of.
that on a cloud server too?
It's too much data, dude. Like,
I don't know, man. They do. I don't usually run into data limits anymore, and I upload just about everything I film or
it's
take or
just a
put
pain in
over
the
on there.
ass. Like, most of it does not need to be backed up somewhere on a cloud server. It's just not
Yeah.
necessary. So,
It's
yeah.
not necessary until you lose something you didn't want to lose. Then that sucks.
Never had that happen in 30
All
years of
right.
computing. Have I ever lost
Really?
something
Good
I
for
needed to
you.
keep?
I guess you got
I
probably
mean,
got
like
started on it earlier than I did.
there's stuff that I could have whined about. Like I lost like a big music collection at one point in time, but it was just a bunch of music that I had like downloaded over the years. I didn't even listen to most of it at that point in time. It was just kind
Mm.
of more like a nostalgic, like, oh, that fucking sucks, man. I collected that music over years, but like, so
You know,
technically
you
all
know, it's
there on
like,
YouTube whenever I remember the names of any of it.
yeah, right. Yeah, no shit. Because like it's the same dynamic. I'm pretty sure. I don't even know where it is now. I think I've lost it or something, or who knows, maybe some storage. But a CD case with one of the fat ones that held,
Sure.
I don't know, 150, 200 CDs, and
Yeah.
it filled with CDs. And that was in the time when making MP3 mixes and shit started to be a thing. So you're putting hundreds of songs per disc sometimes, making your own mixes and yeah, and then losing one of those. I mean, it's on the internet now, but like, I mean, I don't even know where I'd play a CD. I hardly use my laptop. Doesn't even have a. I have to go buy a separate. I've gotten before, like the USB connected CD drives, CD-ROM drives.
Yeah. My
Yeah,
computer for the most part is like eight 8 years old, and it doesn't have any kind of optical drive or floppy drive or anything like that.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
none at
I
all.
remember.
Everything's USB.
I remember even considering that back when I was building computers in like 2012 or 13ish. It's like, I don't even know if depends on if you even need them anymore. But I mean, some people want them or not want them, or they get a Blu-ray because they want to do certain things or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah. I
interesting.
mean,
Funny
especially
how
now
that
with
works.
USB 3.0, like you could run any of that optical shit just over a USB cord. So like externals
Yeah.
would really probably be the way to go. It's really like, especially if you're going for performance, it's ideal to have less stuff in your case because then there's more open air that the ambient temperature can disperse through and you can get better airflow and all these kinds
Yeah.
of things. Like it really just for the function of the computer is better to have less stuff in there. Like if you don't have to have an optical drive inside of it, well, I don't know. People go about computers the wrong way. Like they want to. It's kind of like a car. Like they want to get all the fucking wingdings on the
Yeah.
computer, but like most people aren't using any of those, or or a lot of them are not being used. You could spend money on an optical drive at this point in time, and you could have it in your computer, diminishing the amount of airflow and just increasing clutter inside of the case, and really good chance that like you'd go months
And,
and months and months of your life without ever using it.
and use it once or twice to upload some old sim games onto your PC, but that's about it. What else are you gonna use it
Which, with
for?
the speed of internet connections in this day and age, like, well, I would have to get a pretty damn good optical drive in order to be able to install off of a CD as fast as I can off of a server.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean
So,
for a
like,
long time, it's just like yeah,
I
people
installed
don't.
this game today, and it was like it's downloading at a rate that is like beyond what I can read and write with my hard drive. So I'm like
Yeah,
limited by my hard drive space. Optical drives are significantly slower than hard drives, especially fast hard drives. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
if that's the limit, realize like that reading and writing has to happen from an optical drive too. So because it has to like it comes off the optical drive, it goes to the hard drive.
yeah.
So the hard
They all
drive
have their own
has
read and
to
write speeds.
read and write still. So
Yeah.
like if that's being your limit, if it's not your internet connection speed being your limit, then like
Well,
well,
especially when
it's
the hard
faster
drives
to
are all
install from a server.
especially if they're solid state drives that would transfer a lot faster than an optical drive could transfer read and write information.
Yeah, but still, like a
Or
gig a
disk drive
sec
anyway.
is like
Right.
that's fucking fast read and write, man. You know,
Right.
that's fast for anything. That's a lot of fucking data, really fucking fast. Like a gigabyte is like a high resolution feature length film a second.
A gig.
Right?
Yeah.
Like per second. It's kind of ridiculous,
Aren't
honestly.
those they're like theoretical speeds? Like when you actually do the speed check or the different test stuff, they're usually significantly lower because it's like a maximum.
Like I said, I downloaded this game today from Epic Games, or the people who do Fortnite and stuff. They have a new game called Spellbreak, and I
Huh.
downloaded this game, and I downloaded like 85 megs a second the whole time, and like that's fast, you
At
know.
eight at 85. Oh yeah, because then you're being that. Well, okay, so but 85 versus 850 because we're getting like crazy ass download speeds.
850 megabits is
Yeah.
85 megabytes.
Oh, Doug. Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry.
So
You're on much higher terms now. Yeah.
yeah. So nevertheless, like I don't know, like optical drives are kind of an old thing, just like CDs are kind
Yeah.
of an
Apparently,
old
yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's not really any reason to use them anymore. Fast other kinds of drives, USB drives, SD cards, shit like this, they're much faster than an optical drive.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that
it's
funny? At least it'll never be as like eight. Was it eight tracks? The letter it was the number eight in tracks. Isn't that what they're called? Right? I always thought they were A tracks, the letter A, but I think it's eight
yeah,
tracks.
8 track, yeah.
But that was a very short-lived thing. CDs had a decent life. I mean, CDs, DVDs, a solid decade, 12 to even 20 years, really, before
A
people are
part
like,
of that's
all right,
because
I'm
we
done buying them.
consider like the CD and the DVD and the enhanced CD, which a lot of
Yeah.
people forget about at this point in time, which was kind of the crossover between. At first, CDs couldn't hold videos, and enhanced CDs allowed a CD to hold video, and that later turned into DVDs because enhanced
Oh,
CDs couldn't
okay.
hold enough information. But
Yeah.
when you're going with this, then realize like
And
the true CD needs to be compared to the 8 track, like the DVD needs to be compared to the cassette tape, and realize that those are like in the same lineage, right? Like
all right.
an
Yeah, yeah,
8
sure.
track is a bad cassette tape, and technically those are both better formats of like the reel to reel type of
Mm.
recording system. That's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, it's fucking huge discs of magnetic tape, because all of it is basically like the magnetic tape technology. And then from the magnetic tape technology, we went to the reflective polymer technology, which is basically CD, DVD, etc. And
Yeah.
so all of those are technically in the same lineage. So it's like it feels like maybe CDs stayed around much longer than like an 8 track, but realize, like, I mean, technically 8 tracks stayed around as long as cassettes stayed around, because it's the same
Yeah.
technology. And they were around way before they were an 8 track or a cassette, because they were in a non portable form that was like
And there's
reel to
and there's
reel.
a bunch of nuances people don't even know, like you said, like that one. And there's also dual layer discs. I had dual layer DVDs and dual layer Blu-ray discs even, because I was doing video editing stuff and just cramming them onto single disc. So yeah, there's a
Sure.
whole era of nuanced releases of those. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot.
yeah, there was so many different renditions, really. We just end up lumping them all in the same thing. And we might as well,
Yeah.
really, because, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
they're functionally the same technologies. So,
Yeah.
but, you know,
It's true.
that's kind of like the same thing that ends up happening with our psychology, or really with learning about anything, you know. It ends up being this process of, like, further revision of the same story, you know. Like, this is
Mm.
all like, we want to be able to record data. Well, here's a way that we could do it. No, we could do that better. 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 You know what I
And
mean?
Neuralink is born.
Yeah, and then fucking 500 years down the road, we're like, but we could do that better. You know,
Of
it's
course.
inevitable that we're gonna do that.
I
We
love
do it
I
with
love
fucking
that.
everything.
On that note, with the Neuralink thing, I mean, Elon Musk is pretty convinced we are in a similar. I mean, he still references, even his conversations, little comments he makes. It's like, we'll never know. There's a really good chance, but this is kind of the direction we're going. So who knows if we're the ones creating the virtual reality or the symbiosis with machines, or I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he didn't say it like this, but like a matrix dynamic where we're living in a scenario within a scenario where we're in the time of the singularity within this simulation, But outside the simulation, this has already happened before, and so there's like layers within layers, and who knows,
Yeah, I
man?
mean,
It's just interesting.
interesting thing about simulation theory is that, like, in terms of how our reality functions, one could totally understand it as a simulation and it's completely functional. Where, like, then it starts becoming a bigger question is when you start having, like, beliefs attached to that. Like,
Yeah,
is the value of your reality changed at all because it can functionally be understood as a simulation? From, like, the scientific standpoint that would utilize that functional way of looking at it, no. The reality is still exactly the same. This is just like a way of talking about it, and
yeah,
from that function, well, we're definitely living in a simulation. Like, you can make the case where the whole function is this is all simulated reality. Like, what does that really mean? Like, in terms of
right.
the value of our life and stuff. Now that's a whole nother conversation entirely, and it probably doesn't mean very much at all. Whether it's a simulation or it's not a simulation, your life is probably of equal value regardless of whether it's simulated or not.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder. It's just interesting to think if like the scientific. So I guess I would think of dogmatic scientists as being like materialists in a way. If you can't measure, taste, see, touch, whatever, but it's real. Whatever we're experiencing is real. And I guess I imagine someone like Elon Musk would agree whatever is real right now we're experiencing is real, or what matters to deal with every day. But at a base level, it seems like he's pretty convinced and unattached to the fact that we're likely in a simulation
Well,
versus
from, like, the scientific standpoint, that's a fucking godsend, because if this is all like a
right,
simulation, like, that means that all of this is, like, highly controllable. So
right,
you kind
yeah,
of want
yeah,
the answer that it
yeah.
was
The
a
seem
simulation.
good, and that's I guess what I'm pointing out is what's interesting. They're both very practical, pragmatic scientists, if you will, in that world of development technology or seeing the world. Yet because of that fundamental difference, yeah, I don't know. It
I mean,
adds
I
a
don't know. Do we call Elon Musk that? I mean, like, let's look at, like, the things that he tried to do. When he tried to do them, they were not considered, like, a practical thing to do, right? Like, starting PayPal and going against, like, oh, we could even start before that with his fucking compression company. Like, uh, we already kind of felt like compression was being done good enough, and there wasn't really a reason to have, like, really revolutions in it, and it was already had people making revolutions in it, and his really, like, his that company successful, sure, like, successful on the scale of his other companies, most definitely not. So you could make an argument that, like, the skeptic that was going, like, we don't really actually need this company, like, maybe they were actually right, and so maybe
mm,
not practical. Then the next place he decides to go is the idea of PayPal, which was basically like, we're gonna have a privatized way pretty much to go against the banks, and a lot of people were like, you're fucking crazy, like, this is gonna get you killed, like, this is the worst
yeah,
thing you should, these are the exact people that you don't go muck around in their little fucking in their little waiting pool, right? Like, they keep that very controlled, but he goes and tries to do it anyways. And then the places where he's sitting right now, like, electric cars, the idea that you're going to take on big oil, not practical. The
right,
idea that you're going to create basically the first privatized space company, not very practical. The idea that you're going to colonize Mars, not very practical, right? So, like, I mean, is
what,
he accomplishing these things? It seems so, but practical?
right,
I don't know. I mean, he's a bit of a
what.
dreamer. He just seems to be able to bring him to reality, perhaps because we're in a simulation.
Yeah, I'd say, well, then that makes it practical because he's pulling it off. Therefore, it's practical. It's not like a waste of funds in that regard. He seems to be manifesting these realities that aren't they were maybe practical, not impractical to other people because they don't have the funds or the drive, I guess, to fight
So,
past those
what's
obstacles.
the is the waste of funds from, like, a business perspective, like, if it
Yeah.
has return?
So it's
Okay,
yeah. So
because
so you put all the funds into
I
Tesla,
mean,
but the oil
I'm
companies shut
pretty
him
sure,
down,
like,
and so
have any of those companies actually turned a profit?
including Tesla.
I'm pretty sure Tesla has definitely not turned a profit. People joke about it inside of, like, the stock market kind of finance place all the time, that it's interesting that you have these situations now
Yeah.
with the tech sector happening where you have, like, stocks that have really high valuations from companies that actually have never turned a profit.
Right, like including Amazon. I think Amazon's the longest standing one for doing that. So they put out they spend so much, and so they bought 3 square blocks of Seattle, hundreds of
Yeah.
millions of dollars
And it's
to make
interesting
sure they're
because this is
not
probably
turning a
like,
profit.
exactly, it's like purposeful manipulation of the turning a profit thing, and that's why like, you
Yeah.
know, the financier who's trying to just make money off of whatever is working, he's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, it doesn't make any sense, but like it works though, like it's gonna
Oh,
keep
it's then
scaling for sure.
and then points it to people understanding more important to understand like the stock market, because if you bought in on Tesla when they were $63 a share, whatever that means, so whether the company's profitable or not, understanding how the market responds to certain companies and how that whole
Yeah.
thing works.
Yeah, I mean this is all about like understanding that there's more than one kind of value. I think is the important thing really to understand that space. There's
Mm,
intrinsic and there's extrinsic value. There's what something is worth right now, and there's what something can be worth over time. And a whole lot of stock market investments are actually invested based on the extrinsic value of something,
mm,
which is like what it can turn into rather than
yeah.
what it actually is right now. So
Well, and then
the
yeah, and
whole
then
of
what it can
investment kind of
produce.
does that.
So it's producing a Tesla or whatever. It's producing a product that is being purchased, even though the intrinsically the company itself on a black and white, look at just the numbers may seem not profitable, but it's not about that. It's providing something people are consuming, whether it's in the stock or in the company or investing in. It is providing an avenue that is
Yeah,
becoming profitable because of interest or shared agreed
a lot of the
interest, I guess.
reason why it's not profitable is because it's reinvesting its profits before they ever make it to any type of
Right,
profit and loss sheet. Yeah.
right.
So, yeah,
Reinvesting.
profitable is a weird terminology when like realistically, well, it's talked about in types, I mean, kind of like in business planning, especially for larger scale endeavors. Well, the bigger the scale of the endeavor, the longer you should expect to not have the endeavor be profitable, because all of the profit, in order for it to reach its maximum potential, really needs to be reinvested as quickly as possible into scaling that endeavor. Especially if it's like end scale is a really large scale. Like if you're trying to go worldwide with this shit, and right now you're only in your city, like, well, probably all the money that you make for like the next 3 years is going to be spent basically on marketing and scaling and getting more employees and more locations and do,
Yeah.
so that you actually can be worldwide with this shit. Like that takes time and it takes money, and
Is
that's
it
where your
funny that
profits are going to go.
your goal is in that case to be successful, not necessarily profitable. Your goal is to actually not be profitable, but to be successful. So you're able to have such an income coming in, you're able to keep expending that and reinvesting and growing.
Sure.
Just because you're not profitable, I think people think if it's not profitable means nobody's making money in the company, people aren't getting paid. That's not the case. Like you pay people whatever you pay them, 100 grand, $1 million salary, who cares? But if you're still expending more than you're loans or rebuilding or developing out than you're taking in, people can make all sorts of money, and your company is technically unprofitable, yet you are very successful, and so are the people within the company.
Yeah, and like I mean, realize like whether employees get paid or not has absolutely nothing to do really with like whether or not the company is profitable.
Right.
Like don't get me wrong, that's money coming out of the business's coffers, but like employees are a necessary operational cost for certain scales and certain
Mm-hmm.
deployments. So like if you're trying to say that the reason why your business isn't profitable is because of your employees, realize that the reason why your business might ever be profitable will also be because of your employees. Like you
Yeah.
need fucking employees in order to do this at a real scale. Yeah. So a
Yeah.
lot of the mindset of this, you especially get it. It's not as muddled in places where the whole of the mindset is different, but where the prevalent mindset is basically the employee rather than the employer mindset. There's some muddling about like what's profitable and whether like something being profitable actually determines whether it's worth doing, you know? Because like
Mm.
that, the extrinsic profit, the profit that's not seen today but is most definitely existent in the future, is like that's oftentimes worth more than what you could get today. And much like a fucking, well, like you want to continue to hedge your bet, right? Like if you know that you're going to win the game of blackjack, of course you want to double down, right? So
Yeah.
like you get your profits off the table slower, and in the moments that you haven't taken those profits yet, you're not profitable. But if you like know that it's going to be a win, or you think there's a high percentage chance, then for you really like you're just in the process of gathering your profit in its maximum potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I
Yes.
mean, you don't need money in order to operate your life, anyways. If you have lots of assets and you can basically get lines of credit based off of those assets and based off of the extrinsic value of your deployments, you come to find that you don't really need money. You know what I mean? You need people to be
Yeah.
willing to give you the shit that you need that's not money. And the easiest way to get them to do that is to give them money, but that's not the only way. Yeah.
Yep.
Business.
Yeah. True story. The world that we currently
Business.
live
I
in.
think
Yep.
our
It's a very
relationship
interesting
with money
place.
is like out and out pretty fucked up. Like at least like the part of society that I came from, which is predominantly like lower or middle class, which is really
Mm.
lower class, right? Like
Yeah.
the way that they perceive money and just like funding and the funds that they have and like their purchase decisions and shit, like the whole way that they do that, it just does not make any sense with how like markets and economies and well money actually functions, you know.
Yeah.
It's a broke way of looking at it, right? Like it's broken because they perceive everything from the way that a broke person would.
Right.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And then you have stuff in high school or schools that don't really even teach you about just basics, balancing a checkbook. Oh, Jesus Christ, like how old I am balancing a checkbook, and I haven't written a check in like, I've avoided writing checks at all costs, even at a young age when it was a thing. I'm like, come on, man. Already? Like, we still aren't, can't just do cards. I can't give you my routing number. Like, I don't
And
know,
in a
some
certain
shit.
way
Like,
too,
grab
realize
a
even the
check.
idea that like balancing a checkbook is a necessary thing to know, like
Right.
understanding how to do simple math is definitely like a necessary thing to do, but like a rich person mentality is not really to be worried about counting the beans that you currently have to determine whether or not you can buy something else. It's more determined off of how much money is coming in, not how much
Right.
money is sitting here right now. The idea of balancing the checkbook is all like counting the beans that I currently have. You know what I mean?
What kind, so even just like expenses versus income, whatever your regular income is, but that in compound interest, how to leverage credit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff just not taught in schools about finance in general. Public schools, I guess, things you don't learn, things that to me
Yeah,
should be
tons.
basic stuff. So, because I grew up in, something like a lower middle class area, and like even my, when I went to junior high, it was the first year they built a new junior high. So I was planning on going to this junior high. It had been like 30 years. It was the only one area in the area. And I was on the side of this new high school that was built, or middle school that was built right in the middle. You had to go through like $1 million homes in this neighborhood to get to this school. And I lived on the other side of the train tracks, if you will. So that
You're
was
from the
like,
wrong side of the tracks.
yeah, that was not the reality I grew up in, having like the kids just totally different reality, for these kids growing up with this kind of income with parents and
Yeah.
whatever. And so it's just a total different mindset. And then that carries over into life, how your parents saw money and handled money. A lot of times that's how you learn, just vicariously through them, because we don't have schooling. And so it comes to kind of, I think, like an expectation. We're talking about the neurological disposition for benevolence or malevolence in life or something, or things are going to be okay or work out. I think people who grow up around a financial abundance have just an understanding that money, like, and they learn along the way practical ways of why that is and how to
Mhm.
maintain that in their life. But they have a very settled, they never grew up like struggling, the parents struggle on a paycheck basis for food sometimes, or they just don't even, they can't neurologically even relate to that dynamic. So it's easier to perpetuate an abundance dynamic because you don't even know what the other dynamic feels like, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I mean, we get into like a normalization of in terms of really anything that we do all the time, but in like modern world, our engagement with money is kind of an all-pervasive thing. It's everywhere inside of the
Right.
reality. So we definitely fall into like normalizations of how we perceive money. There's like I don't know what it is like the way some people would maybe call them like wealth coaches or abundance coaches. I've always actually found these people through like sales training, but people who
Mm.
have fucking absurd amounts of money. And when I say absurd amounts of money, I mean like they could fucking blow as much money as they wanted for the rest of their life, and they would still end up giving way more money than they should to their kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have
Yeah. Yeah.
absurd fucking amounts of money, billions and billions of dollars. And one of the things that really they talk about that differs massively for them and that actually helps put yourself into a place where you will generate more money is to simply just like put yourself around people with more money and
Yep.
see how they make decisions differently. Like a good
Yeah.
example of
Yeah.
this is that like a person who comes from a place of struggle with their money, oftentimes like they'll inhibit themselves from doing something that is fun for themselves because like right now they don't have the money to do it. Not really like taking into account the extrinsic value of them having a mindset that is more balanced because it's done things that were fun and that it's actually like enjoying what it's doing and has reasons behind why it's doing what it's doing. If you like are in this very broke mentality and then you don't allow yourself to like do anything or spend any money or anything like that, you actually massively decrease your likelihood to like put in the effort to get that money because you start like normalizing this lifestyle that there's not
Mm.
really any reason to be doing it. Right? Like it's just fucking
Yeah.
boring all the time. I don't fucking do anything. I never have any money. What's the point in working for this shitty life? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's difficult in that space sometimes to like then get yourself to step out of that mindset, but that's really like what you have to do. And in certain places in life, I think
Right.
this is one of them. It really is just beneficial to have the ability just to like make yourself do something else. Yeah, I know I'm broke, but I'm not going to go around thinking like a broke bitch because that's not going to fucking help me get money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like there's probably like kinder ways of saying that and all this stuff, and it would be great if there was like a nicer answer or whatever, but I think that's really just the most functional one. Just like literally fucking snap out of it and realize that if you had money you wouldn't fucking act like this, and you need to start
Right.
acting like the person that you actually want to be. I do this whole model with people that I work with. It's the idea of like projecting yourself into your future, function meditatively or creatively, and then like really taking like with a fine-tooth comb looking at like what that person does with their life. How do they make their decisions? What do they do with their time? What do they spend time on? What don't they spend time on? When they wake up in the morning, not just like do they eat breakfast? What do they eat for breakfast? Why do they eat that? These kinds of things.
Mm.
And really
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
to understand like that person that you want to be, that like effigy of yourself that you think is so much better than you are right now, that is the whole reason behind you telling yourself that you're not good enough. Who is that person really? What do they do? What are they like? What do they think? Because like the difference between you and them is all of those things. If you can just copy all of those things in your life, functionally you will be them, and then you are the person of your
Mm.
dreams. Like it's there's no way it's not gonna work. A whole is the sum of its parts. If you can copy someone, imitation is the highest form of flattery, right?
Mm.
Well, like if the greatest version of yourself is the one that you can imagine, well, all you have to do then is simply act out that imagination. So the question really becomes, why aren't you acting out that imagination? What is stopping you from being the person that would be all those things that you say that it is? Like I deal with a lot of people in like the spiritual space, and they believe that like functionally that they're here on a higher mission. Like maybe we could say like a star seed, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they came from another place or maybe even another lifetime, and they're here to do something very, very important that's like very difficult, and they're functionally special because of this. Yet then they're like they justify inside of themselves struggling with stuff that's like standard human shit. Every human has to deal with that. Like, if you're really here to do this big grandiose job that's like save all of humanity, realize like that person that does that, there's like a set of standards and ways that they operate their life that probably doesn't go like, oh, but I can't do this thing that every other human does. Like,
Mm.
that's not real. You know what I mean? They would go about that in a different way, and if you can emulate or mimic that methodology, functionally you have already become your dreams, and then your dreams are
Mm.
here now, right? Like all you got to do is act them out. This is where like a lot
Mm.
of this comes from, the digging into like what the fuck does Shakespeare mean when he says all the world's a stage and all the people in it merely players, because this guy never means just like one thing. And if you can
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
like if you can look at something and go like, ooh, that's deep. With him, you should be like terrified of how treacherously deep that is, because like
Mm.
you probably do not see what it's actually saying when you see that. You see like you can tell that's a really deep bunch of water, right? But to see the deep bunch of water from the surface and to have gone through the deep water and you're now residing on like the bottom of it, like now that's two completely different stories, you know?
Mm, yeah.
And so it really like, well, there's a lot of benefit to like analyzing really great writers that speak in like metaphor like this because they're saying a lot while saying a little. And with that thing, like, what does that really mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's got a lot of truth to it. You can see on like really any examination that really very much so we are kind of like acting out parts inside of the world that we live in, right? We play some kind
Yeah.
of role, and maybe we look to like define a legacy or these kinds of things. These are all like standard story mechanics, you know. So pretty
Yeah.
much it is a play. Well, like what is the what's the actual effects of this being a play? Because realize like the idea of it being a play and we are simultaneously the playwrights kind of completely washes with the idea that this would be a simulation, right? Realize a
Yeah.
play is a simulation of actual reality, you know. Like you get up on a stage and you play out what could happen in real life but is now happening in real life but not actually happening in real life. It's a play, right? So it's a simulation.
Yeah. You said
So in a
you
certain
also talked
way,
about difference
he's saying a
between
simulation back then.
talked about the difference between seeing the bottom or how deep something has a deep depth of pool or whatever versus sitting on the bottom, sitting in it. Made me think
Mm-hmm.
of like when I used to swim a lot and realizing so I wanted to like see I wanted to swim be able to swim down to the bottom of the pool or the bottom of the lake or wherever I was at and not just like touch it, but you're fighting to stay buoyant at the right level to stay present at the bottom, but that
Yeah.
it's constantly floating you back up. So if you let your air out slowly, you just take a big breath and just let out slowly enough that you just sink. So I
Yeah.
remember having fun with different times, just like taking big breaths and then just like on a 12-foot deep pool, letting my breath out, sitting cross-legged and just sinking down to the bottom until you just sit there. And you have
Yeah.
plenty of breath for a while and you just sit at the bottom. Totally different. What a fucking cool experience, right? I mean, the sounds and just the pressure on all your skin. I mean, just everything. It's a totally, really fucking cool thing to do.
Yeah. I love that about like well, I think water really does a thing to like bring you present because you kind of feel well, it's like the fish out of water, only like
Mm.
you're not a fish and you're not supposed to be in the water, so you're a human in the water. It's basically the same
Yeah.
thing as a fish out of water, but like
Mm.
if you can learn to just like sit there and accept that difference and just be there, it's actually
Yeah.
like really really fucking calm. Like
Yeah.
it's so fucking chill and it's such like a neat space and it really I think it really goes to show like you could be thrashing around like feeling like you're gonna fucking drown, totally losing your shit, and it would be like a horribly stressful time, and it just goes
Yeah.
to show like how much of a difference just like accepting the moment can really make. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. Yeah. Like I had a point in time where I got like so my dogs got in a fight and in the process of me trying to stop them, I got like bit on my arm to the point where like my fucking like my tendon and part of the muscle was like hanging out of my fucking arm and shit. And like
Jesus.
uh then like I was getting taken to the hospital for this, and like my friend that was with me the whole time was just like he was losing his shit over how calm I was, but it's like it was so beneficial because like it's gonna take time to get to the hospital. This could feel horrible the whole way, or I could just like accept the fact that like your arm's fucked up right now. Just don't focus on it. Get to the hospital. Try not to
Yeah.
lose your shit. You know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
chill the fuck out. Like it's much better
Yeah.
for my experience to just chill the fuck out. You know,
Yeah.
even though everything in my reality is going like, dude, your fucking arm, dude, like part of
Yeah.
it's hanging out of it. Like what the fuck? You know, like that's not
So
beneficial.
do you think it's intentionally or preemptively avoidable to go into shock in that dynamic where let's define shock here as someone who their arms ripped up like that, it's no longer a choice how they react, or they're so overwhelmed by their reaction that they're having a response like they can't focus on anything else, where like when you see in shows or whatever, someone needs to
Yeah.
slap them to be like, dude, chill the fuck out. Yes, this is reality, but we're gonna go to the hospital, so just chill the fuck out. Like choose to accept what's happening instead of freaking out. So do you think, because I feel like what you're saying too, in certain really intense situations like that come up, I feel like for the most part of my life, just in reflection, immediately you realize it is what it is, and these are the steps that need to move forward. So we just stay space of almost being calm, or at least mentally calm, even if there's all this physical pain and chaos.
Yeah, accepting, I think, is like totally the right word for it, you know. And I kind of think that that shock is like
Mm.
a when we're talking like there's a brutal ass car wreck, and then after it, like you know, the person sitting in the front seat is like sitting there putting their lipstick on, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's almost to them like the situation's just not even happening. I really
Mm.
think this is actually like kind of a forced format of acceptance. Like your mind goes like, okay,
Mm.
man, the only way you're gonna fucking deal with this is just to like just fucking be here and okay with it just right now.
Yep.
Got to be
Yeah. Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
You do not get a choice. That's like, and so you're just like, okay, doke. I mean, you know, fucking, and like you're just even, and when you're really accepting of something like that, like you can just fucking get on with it, or
Yeah.
even when it's horrific, but like
Yeah.
I mean, you know, shit happens, guys.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that's just the way that it is. That's what's happening right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
I think
car
at the
accidents
end of the
are.
day, like what consciousness really is our ability to like be in the moment and determine what is the best uh, operation
Yeah.
for ourselves. And like if
Yeah.
you're sitting in the moment and you're present and aware to the moment and you're able to do that, like you don't need any like spirituality or ideology or anything like that. Like that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
you do what's best for yourself in the moment and you stay conscious of what you're doing, not just like doing shit haphazardly because you wouldn't have any idea whether that's actually the best thing for you in the moment. You know what I mean?
So, like the Christ-like dynamic being the ability to have choice and to make choice, not to live reactively out of whatever your circumstances are, but
Yeah.
to actually be able to be present, be aware, have your awareness be present in the moment, accept it, and have make choices.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is like, I mean, in a certain way, like I think our greatest gift is that we have that ability to just like make a choice. And I think in a lot of ways we don't we spend a lot of time like maybe honoring like a grandized version of ourselves that lays off in the future and not enough
Mm.
time like honoring what's here right now, this thing that's capable of just like making a choice of how it sees the next moment. That thing is fucking incredible, and you're already that thing right now, and
Mm.
you could get a whole lot of liking yourself out of just like honoring the fuck out of the fact that you know you're that incredible thing right now that can just like make a choice about how it fucking does something. Like
Yeah.
that's fucking sweet. You don't need to be able to like move planets in order to be someone that's like special and worthy of love and shit. Like just the fact that you can make a choice in the moment is already a pretty incredible thing, you know?
Agreed.
I
Million
think we're way
percent.
too fucking hard on ourselves. Like we have like this huge expectation for us to like be something that we're probably not in the moment. I think this
Mm.
drives us forward, and I think it can be a beneficial mechanic, but I think it's also one that has like potential detriments with it in the sense that you can start like painting yourself into expectations that you know realistically right now you can't actually meet those expectations, so you're inevitably
Mm.
going to like let yourself down, but like that letting yourself down is really just the process of growing into the thing that you want to be. And so it's like, of course you're gonna let
Mm.
yourself down right now. You're not the thing that you want to be yet. That's the thing you want to be. Like you're becoming
Yeah.
that. And the
And being
process of
able.
becoming that is you letting yourself down, not being that.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It's fine.
Yeah, and
Like,
accepting that that's part of the process, just like
yeah,
rejection is part of the process of learning to ask people out or ask someone out or just approach a situation. You just learn that's part of the process, and
yeah.
it's
You're gonna
okay.
do that until you don't anymore, and when you don't, then you'll be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in the meantime, I guess find a way to enjoy or value, find value. Maybe enjoy is it, but you don't have to necessarily do enjoy to accept. Although that, if you can, find a way to enjoy your circumstances, no matter how shitty they are. I mean, that's where some of the most relieving comedy comes from, even to yourself, being able to
Sure.
joke about what the fuck is happening right now.
Yeah.
No matter
And
what the
I
reasons
mean,
are, but it's like, I created this or whatever, but it is what it is. And like, what the fuck? Find
yeah.
some way to enjoy it or find humor in it.
Yeah, Buddhism's all about that concept of like finding a way to basically laugh at yourself or laugh at the situation, not
Mm.
because like you're trying to like humoristically bypass the situation, but just because like Well, it's funner to laugh about stuff.
Well, it's like in full acceptance of it, but you're choosing not to get bitter by it or have some major reaction or response to it that doesn't necessarily serve you. And why not respond the way it is what it is? Or respond in a way that brings some kind of humor or perspective to it that lightens,
Yeah.
if you will, the reality that is.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're having a good time with it or not, it's still going to be happening if it's
Right.
reality, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, that leaves you in a really awkward position where basically you should figure out how to have fun with it because, like, you ain't changing whether it's
Yeah.
happening. Do you want to have a good time or a bad time? Your choice, you know.
Yeah.
And I
That's
know people hear that and they go like, well, in the right situation, actually, like you can't do that and do that. And I got like some fucking stories for you that yes, you can.
yeah, yeah.
You
Dude, it's
actually
fun. I think
can.
and we get to see and there's just you see movies and things in tournament camps and like the worst situations where people find whatever circumstance, no matter how awful you're in, nobody's saying this is easy, but the difference
Yeah.
between accepting your shitty circumstances and finding the value within it, just valuing, whatever, how shitty your circumstances, you can always value something positive. At least I got to sleep tonight and didn't get woken up 6 times a night because of bullshit and everything's going on, or at least whatever it is. Like you can find things. That's on the small end of the spectrum, but also, I don't know if it's a Buddhist thing where I know life is suffering is one of the dynamics, but also suffering being a choice. It's one thing to have
Mm.
like things that could be painful situations, not that you don't feel pain and grief and sorrow, but that the suffering, the self-beratement, or I should feel bad longer or whatever because of
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, or just all this additional chosen suffering versus just accepting shitty situations and finding the best way to get through them.
Yeah. Well, functionally, is like suffering is having a bad experience. Like that's not suffering. The suffering comes
Right?
when you then continue to have that bad experience despite the fact you're no longer having that bad experience. You know?
You're right.
So it's not really like a good idea. And the whole
Yeah.
idea of like trauma, even on like the karmic methodology, right? Like there's not really any reason to carry on a karmic cycle that is a justifiable one. Besides, well, but I haven't learned that yet. You know,
Mm.
like as
Yeah.
soon as you learn it, then there's no actual reason to carry it on anymore because it's not an enjoyable process of engaging with it. So it's not
Right.
like something you just do for the shits and gigs. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
do it because there's a fucking reason to do it. If you've got some value in it, and if it doesn't
Yeah.
have value in it, then it better be fun. And because therein the value you are deriving is the fun. So, yeah.
You are
I
mining
don't
from the situation.
I don't think people hold themselves accountable enough. Like honestly, I think the world would become a significantly better place if people just started holding themselves more accountable, and like
Mm.
not accountable to how fucked up of a person they are, but like of how much power they have to determine what their experience is like right now. I get it that
Yeah.
like well, but that's actually happening and this is actually happening and stuff is really actually like that and but Zach, kids really are being trafficked and there really are people starving in Ethiopia. Like, I get it. I know they are starving there and everything, but like solving that can be done basically two ways. You can enact the solution while having a terrible time, or you can enact the solution while having a non terrible time. I personally would
Mm.
like to enact a solution while having a non terrible time.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I don't think that makes me a bad person. I think that makes me a
Yeah,
smart person. Like, why the
I
fuck do you
concur.
want to have a bad time? I hold myself accountable to finding a way to enjoy my learning process, enjoy my growth process, enjoy the fact that, yo, look, guys, I'm a human too. I've had a lot of shortcomings. Me, like almost every other guy, spend a whole large chunk of my life worrying about my penis size. Because that's a thing that males do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But, like, I did a lot better with that once I started having fun with it and started just making jokes about my little wiener instead of hiding it to myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And life has been a lot better since then. I've had a lot of good laughs with people and we've made like, there's been good camaraderie. And
Yeah.
I really actually got more like realistic support on that the size of my penis was okay since I started making jokes about it than I ever would have gotten if I was going around being like, hey, like guys, I want to was just checking in, like I'm a little insecure about this, but could you take a look at my dick and let me know if it's an okay size? Like that would have been weird, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
make a joke to a sexual partner that you've had about your little wiener, and they're like, your dick's not actually small, right? And you're like, yeah, but it's funny. You know, it's funnier if my dick's small. So for the sake of argument, my penis is gonna be small forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because like I see the humor now in myself that like, why did I even care? Like why did I even
Yeah.
care? It
Yeah.
does not matter. Whether the size of my penis actually means nothing. It is not important at all. Girls that will have sex with me will have sex with me regardless of the size of my penis because until they're having sex with me, they do not know. They don't know. They just literally don't know. By the time that they find out, it's too late. You know what I mean? It's too late. They might be
Yeah.
sitting there going like, "Oh man, I'm with the little penis guy again," or whatever. But like, it's too late. It's too late. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like the only place that it mattered was in basically the pressure that I was putting on myself. So I chose to relieve that pressure through just fucking joking about it. So what if I got a little penis? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
orgasm.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
got problems with it. I still finish. You know, it's all good. It's all good. This is
Yeah.
not my problem whether or not it's no good for anybody else. It does everything I needed to do just fine. I go to the bathroom very easily, maybe even easier than you. It's very it doesn't weigh very much. You know what I mean? It's easy to get
Yeah.
out because of its uniquely small size. It's like a
It's
travel package.
superior accessibility. That's what that is.
Exactly.
Cognitive
You know,
cognitive reframing. Yeah.
if you go into electrical engineering, you'll see that it's actually beneficial to be a smaller guy because a lot of wiring is in tight places. You know what I mean?
There
So,
you go.
you know,
It's true.
yeah. I mean, and there could always be the question too, like if it feels like you're tossing your hot dog down a hallway, maybe you're in the wrong building. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're
Maybe that's
saying. Well
maybe that's the
said.
wrong hallway for you. Maybe that hallway is
Uh,
intended for some other individual who would not be able to fit in, the little, you know, cottage
but,
that was
yeah.
intended for you. The small,
Especially if it's
small cottage.
maybe it's the wrong pants hallway. There needs to be a different pants hallway to go
Yeah,
into.
yeah. I'm not sure I want to go into that department of the pants hallway. I don't know. That sounds
uh,
terrifying. There's just
Sex on
penises
salvia.
everywhere.
Yeah. That'd be one
Oh
interesting
man.
experience. Could you imagine sex on salvia? Like, so I know people like
I
have
can imagine it, but I don't think I could do it.
except not really. Like, how can you imagine? Who fucking knows how that would go? That'd be one hell of a okay.
Oh, well, I imagine it. I just imagine it's probably not accurate, what I'm imagining.
Yeah,
But I can
right.
imagine it. I come up with something. It's
Yeah,
probably
no
it's
doubt, man. That'd be
probably
one
not
hell of an
right.
interesting experience. Or weird,
Yeah.
anyhow.
I've
Salvia.
still never managed to actually even have sex on LSD, and I've been trying to do that since I was like 14 years old. So, never pulled it
I
off.
still never
Got close
managed.
one time, you know. Got
Yeah.
very close one time, and like I'm talking like actually high on LSD, not like I'm in the throes of coming down and I'm hanging out with some chick that I've been hanging out with all night. That's a different story. I've done that
Yeah,
plenty of
like
times.
when you're
I'm not
rolling
talking
hard
about
and
that.
everything is incredibly melty and swirly.
I'm talking about I'm peeking and I'm inside of a
Yeah.
vagina simultaneously. Like that. I've never been able
Yeah.
to actually pull it together enough to pull that off. You know, close on
Yeah. Hey,
numerous occasions, but when I was already
ev-
doing that and the peak hit, whew, too much experience at the same time. Had to cut one out. You know, and
hey,
there was only
everybody
one that
needs
you could
something.
cut out. So
Everybody needs some things on their bucket list. So, I mean, psychonauts or people do a lot of that. They're gonna have those
yeah,
kind of things on there.
this
That's just
brings
only
an
natural.
interesting question. Be careful about what you put on your bucket list. If this was on my bucket list and I feel like I had to accomplish it before I died, I'd be in for some trouble because I'm not sure I'll ever pull this off. You know?
No, the bucket list is in like the things that when you reference them, they're reasons, they're things you still would very much like to like enjoy in this life, in this incarnation, whatever that means. May or may not
Sure.
happen, but it's in the vortex. It's a list, and it's
Yeah.
infinitely nuanced to everybody because everybody has their own interesting desires they want in life. I think especially as you go through life more, you've experienced enough things. You have your own weird, nuanced bucket list, even if you never call it that. Like everybody has their own things that kind of really would like. You can call them fetishes if we get to a certain
Yeah,
dynamic, but little
everyone's got
niches.
sexual ones that they haven't shared with anybody yet, I think. Yeah. Maybe I don't know enough like
Hmm.
I haven't gotten to a point in my life yet where like 75-year-old women are very sexually open with me. I
Hmm.
suspect there is probably based off of my interaction with women my age, when they've gotten comfortable around me and they're treating me like one of the girls, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
they're pretty fucking open, more open than guys. That's for sure. You know,
Mm.
guys keep like their weird shit a little closer to the chest around their friends than it seems like females do to me. And
Huh.
I would suspect that there's, you know, I can see she's a nice grandma. When you come over, she gives you like hot cocoa and stuff. But when she's hanging out with her friends, she's talking about some of the craziest sexual shit you've ever heard of in your life. And like she's all about it. You know what I mean? But what the point I was really getting to was I think most people like have these things, but they're just not at a point in their life yet where they're quite okay with letting everybody else know that that
Yeah.
exists yet. You know?
Yeah.
It's even hard sometimes to say to like your sexual partner, you know? Like
Mm.
if like well, I mean there's so many different things with this. If you have any fetish, like asking your partner to engage in it, especially if you have like a long-term relationship with that partner, and they've never brought this up, but you've always been thinking about it, and you've never said anything about it because you've always been like, "Am I fucking weird?" You know?
Right. Or fear of
That
judgment or
becomes a
rejection or
very
something.
difficult thing to bring up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, I just always wanted you to dress up like a zebra while we have sex, but I never wanted to say anything. And they're like, really? For 9 years, you never wanted to say
Yeah.
anything about wanting me to be dressed up like a zebra? You know, like
Yeah.
that's you can understand why someone hesitates to share that with somebody else. You know?
Yeah. You could, but it's like I mean I guess there's just only, but I feel like a long-term relationship, I would want to have enough of those conversations before we're in a long-term, whatever that means. So
Yeah,
like I
you
know
want
that I
to,
can
but
bring up.
sometimes it don't happen. You want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, there you go. The ideal
It's
versus
in that moment where
reality.
you're like, I gotta bite the bullet. I gotta accept my fetish openly to this person who I actually
Yeah.
care if they decide I'm a fucking weirdo. So
Right. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I mean, by the way, there's
Yeah.
you know, like I know this from like so I had a girlfriend at one point in time, long term partner, and after we had been together for a long term, I'm avoiding all specifics because I'm not trying to out anybody. So after we had been together for a long term period of time, we ended up one night just like one thing evolved to another, and next thing I knew, I was having like by far the most straightforward, this is how I feel about sex conversation I had ever had with another partner. And like
Cool.
the amount of like layers and veils that were removed in the midst of this conversation was a, a little bit almost even perturbing for me. Like after that conversation, I was like, wow, I kind of didn't know this person. And I'm kind of realizing
Yeah.
they're having the same experience I am because some of the shit I told them, I didn't tell nobody, dude. Like, I didn't tell
Yeah.
nobody. But it was just like a completely open heart to heart that, like, if you ask a question, I'm going to give you an answer on both sides of it. So we kind of
Yeah.
both kept, I think we both kept testing each other, you know, like, but are you this weird? But are you this weird? Why, yes, I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
But are
Yeah.
you this weird? You know, and it
Yeah.
just kept
Yeah.
going farther and farther and farther. And like,
Hmm.
by the end of it, it was basically like you had gone through your entire porn history in your mind and you had asked your partner whether or not they were into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
all out on the table there. And I was fucking shocked. I had been together with this person for quite a long time. We had had sex 2,000 times or something. You would think
Yeah.
you'd like. I thought I had seen every single square millimeter of this person's body, probably more than they've seen of their own body. I did not know so many things, and it was just so like,
Well, how'd
well,
it go after that?
we had the second best sex of our entire relationship, or third best maybe, right after that.
Cool.
But there, interestingly enough, like I personally, I can't speak for them, but I personally still had some hesitations about things that we put on the table, and both people were like, I'm into that, and the other one's like, yeah, I'm into that too. I still was like, had conditionings and shit around stuff like that,
Sure.
and like we're referencing butt stuff, right? Like there was like
Yeah.
a conditioning around it, and so still in the moment, I would be like, oh, but do I like?
Oh,
I
sure. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You know, even though
Yeah.
like it had been clearly stated, no, I'm good with that. Like that, I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. We want that. You know. That's a
Right.
plus. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
still like, ooh, but
Fighting
maybe
yourself.
maybe it's gonna
Yeah.
be picked up weird, or maybe I'm fucking
Yeah.
weird,
Sure.
or
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Self judgment.
Interesting.
Lot of
Totally.
self-judgment. And then yeah, it's interesting with that because then you realize in that situation it becomes very prevalent to you that like, yo, I was never the problem, or they were never the problem with any of this. I was not even going to allow myself to do this. They could have been like, please
Yeah.
do this to me. And I would have been like, hey, ooh, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, like I still would have done that because like, I wasn't okay with it as much as I
Yeah,
was like, you
interesting,
know,
huh?
I'm kind of interested in that. Like, well, not
Yeah. So
interested
did you
enough to
find
be
out
actually okay with it.
did you find so in that dynamic, did you find out there were things that you thought you were interested in, but you actually weren't, or that you just look back and like, shit, I was, I still am interested in it. Now I know it could be a little awkward though because of other programming inside of me, but I am still interested in it. Or did it
I was
alter that?
still interested in all of it. I just realized now a lot how basically the reason why I hadn't pursued that interest was pretty much like my own self judgment, my own worry about how I would be perceived, how that would affect the relationship or
Yeah.
perception of me and stuff. So in other words, I still knew I wanted all of those things. I just realized how much of a pussy I had been, and that was exactly why I hadn't gotten them. So that was
Interesting.
very empowering for me
Yeah.
because any type of situation like that, then I'm just like, okay, well, just stop being a pussy, man. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, just do it. Just pull the fucking trigger. And like, I'm all about that now. Like, and I wasn't at that point in time, but I have grown to be all about that now. Cause like now,
Mm.
I really enjoy the rush of like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Fucking pull the trigger. Like, push the button. Let's fucking see what's gonna happen. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's gonna happen, I want to fucking do it now. I'm ready. Let's go. Like, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen. You didn't prepare. I don't care. Let's see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I
About to
just want
find
to get
out.
it there. Like, I'm already prepared. Maybe I don't need to get ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe everything's just fine and it's just me thinking I need to prepare that's been the entire reason why I've even been holding back on this to this point. We're never going to know until we just pull the fucking trigger. So let's just pull the trigger and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love it, dude. It's like it's honestly like a bit of an addiction for me.
Mm.
Like cuz this ties into like the way that I like to operate with people too, which is in like a very disruptive methodology. Like,
Mm.
I like to devil's advocate. I like to disrupt a way of thinking. I like to kind of like shake up the paradigm, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. I like causing questions to be asked or asking questions where no questions are being asked in order to
Yeah.
shake things up. And this goes hand in hand with that. And it's really ended up being just like I found a whole lot more places. Like, it turned out that like disrupting myself is actually like the biggest hit. So it's kind of weird. Like, you know how you talk about the idea with like heroin, right? Chasing the dragon. The first time you ever get high, it's the best, and you can never get that high again, but you're always chasing it down, right? Well, like
Yeah.
the first 10,000 times I got high off of this was actually off of a format that was pretty shitty. And then when I finally like started doing it with myself, I was like, "Oh, now here's the good stuff." Like, now this is really evoking the feeling of like we're really putting it on the fucking line. And then like that's what I really actually like. I don't like I don't like disrupting someone else. I like disrupting myself. You know,
Mm.
disrupting other
Yeah.
people was like a little microcosm where I at least got to watch it happen. So I kind of felt like I was like, you know, in cahoots with the disruption. But what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really like is to be like the person enacting the disruption, in cahoots with the disruption, the person being disrupted, and literally just a space in which disruption is being perceived. If I can be
Mm.
all of those things at the same time, I'm fucking psyched because it just feels exciting. Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking awesome. This is part of the reason, like this is a part of my process of actually getting to the point that I want to be at, where like when I die, I want to be like excited to die. I want to be looking forward to the moment, in the moment, be like,
Yeah.
sick, dude, I get to see what
Yeah.
happens after this major disruption. And so
Totally.
I've been going through at first it was like being okay with the fact that I'm going to die, and it's evolved over time. And the point that it's at
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now is that like I'm trying to get it to a point where like when I'm laying there on my deathbed and I know I'm gonna die soon, I'm like, all right, let's fucking
Yeah.
hurry up. This is gonna be fucking crazy. Like, I'm psyched on this. Let's see it. You know, I
Yeah.
want to really truly be embracing the opportunity because I think there's probably a lot of beauty in it that probably gets completely overlooked if you're going like, oh fuck, no, not right now. You know, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just not about that life, man. There's no way I can live my life the way that I've lived my life and then have my deathbed experience be like, oh fuck, no, not right now. Like, dude,
Yeah.
no way. You could like I don't know how you would get me to possibly do that, because obviously, like, threat of certain death, it kind of doesn't work
Yeah,
inside
yeah,
of this space. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I just wouldn't do it. Like, I'm not gonna fucking allow myself to be that guy in that moment. I'm not doing it. I don't care
Yeah,
if I have to completely fucking delude myself in order to not do that. I'm not doing it. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not doing it. I've come too far and worked way too hard to, like, just be that thing. I wouldn't like
yeah,
that about myself. And
yeah.
so that's a strong no from me. Uh,
It's a hard no.
hard no, dude. Like the
It's a
hardest
hard
possible
no.
no.
Yeah,
And also an easy no. It's a very easy no for me to give. Because it's like, that, oh no, no, I don't want to do that. Like, very
yeah,
clear, right? Like, no questions
yeah.
about it. I definitely don't want to do that. I'll do whatever it takes to not do that. So, yeah.
Agreed. And on that note, we're literally exactly 1 hour from where we cut in
All
with
right.
the technical difficulties. So I think it's perfect
Well,
timing.
there was all kinds of comments in here. Sorry I wasn't paying any attention to any comments tonight. I love you guys. Sometimes I read comments, other times I sit here and talk to Aaron. And, well, I
Yeah,
like you
it's
guys, but
true.
I also like Aaron, so I split my time between you. And
We try to make it all work.
don't take it personally. It's not.
Yeah,
Nothing's
yeah.
personal. I don't even know if personalities exist. We might just make them up. This could all be a simulation. So, you never know. But what you do know is that regardless of what experience you're having, it's funner if you're having fun doing it. So, like,
100%.
maybe challenge yourself to have more fun doing whatever the fuck it is that you're doing. Just make it funner, and then maybe your life will be better. Very simple. So, love you guys. Love you, Aaron.
Yeah,
Wednesday?
love you
Is
too,
it
Zach.
is it
Love you
Monday? Is this
guys.
a Monday show? It's Labor Day.
It is. It
I
is.
didn't do a lick of work today in honor of Labor Day.
Yep, me either. It was a great day.
I did take a long nap though. At
Me
any
too.
rate.
That's why I'm mobile, because I woke up in my nap a little too late. So it is what it is. Labor Day.
All right, everybody. You have a wonderful night from
Night,
us
guys.
here on the Expanded Understanding
Mm.
channel. We love you very much. Stay fearless. Nature rewards courage. Have more fun. You'll appreciate yourself in the end. Like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to click the bell notification so that you get notified when we go live. We got all kinds of shows on this channel. Check out the description for all of our other social media links and all the other stuff that we do. There's a community of people trying to do things to make each other's lives better. We would like you to become a part of it. Have a wonderful night. Peace out.
Bye.